Hello there. Welcome back to the Evolution of the Soul series. My name is Cheryl Arts from Willow Roots. And today I'm going to talk about how illness serves us or dis-ease serves us. And you may be thinking, how is it even possible? Why, how could it even help us in any way? Or why would we want illness or disease? And I'm going to share some of the experience that I've had for my own personal journey with healing, but also be on the observer and the witness side as someone in the healing industry and helping others through their illnesses, their diseases, and sharing with them this idea that we may stay in illness or disease for some reason, or we manifest it, or we bring it on to ourselves to receive something or get something out of it, or there's many different reasons. So I'd like to share some of that today, just because having that realization can really shift where you are in your healing process. So I want to share with you a couple things, and I'll start by kind of sharing my experience that, part of what happened with me in my concussion is that I would tend to have to go to my room where it was nice and quiet. My kids were young and they were busy and loud, and it was kind of like a nice hiding place. And so it was definitely essential during certain times of my recovery and when I was really symptomatic, but it actually became a habit too. It was something that I would do. And it would also, so here's how it would serve me too. As I was healing, I started feeling better. It would get me out of parenting. So difficult situations or even like making dinner. And so I'd be like, no, I don't feel well. And I would go to my room. And I remember when I was starting to feel a lot better and sitting in my room going, this dawning, this realization that I was hiding. I was hiding from my family. I was getting out of doing things because I wasn't well, but I actually was better than I probably let on. So that served me in a way to get out of things. And I remember when I was working full time in the corporate world and things would get stressful. I was really busy. I was really tired. And I just wanted some time off. I just wanted, I didn't want to take vacation. But I feel like I manifested or brought on a cold or a flu so that I didn't have to go to work. And who can attest to that? Like, I think, I think about times when, yeah, like I didn't feel well. And I'm like, it only lasts a day or two, but I feel like I really wanted that to happen to get me out of going to work or get me out of going to school or maybe getting out of an exam. So whatever that is for some people, maybe that's migraines or headaches. And you'd be like, Cheryl, you might be saying like, Cheryl, would never wish this on myself, but it takes a little courage to go in and look at ourselves, look at our behavior, look at what we put out into the world and what we actually manifest. And so, there's different things that come with it too. And I have people in my life. There's one particular person who I believe manifested cancer. They talked about it quite a bit most of their lives and then manifested it. And, part of that, like I can't speak for them. They've now since passed, but a part of them, I felt like it was to get attention. And unfortunately, that attention came with a lot of dire consequences or sympathy was another kind of reaction of this cancer. And so some people are starved for those kind of things. And to put yourself and, come through that kind of diagnosis and challenge of healing through that does bring in a lot of sympathy, does bring in a lot of attention, but is that the kind of attention that you want? And so I'm not sitting here accusing anybody of anything because I am guilty of these similar things, but it's just trying to give you some perspective to kind of go in another layer of your illness or your disease or whatever you're recovering from. Perhaps it's actually to get help. So maybe you're just so busy that you need help, right? And you're the one doing all the work and doing all the helping for others, and now it's time for people to help you, right? So maybe this what, what we're going through helps us get help. Gets us help to help clean the house or do the yard work or get groceries or look after the household or take care of the kids that we've gotten to this breaking point where we can't do it any further and we need some help. We often talk about in the healing world a lot of times when we get illness, so say it's a cold or a flu, we don't super love it. We want to know how to get through it and heal it, but a lot of times that comes in for us to rest. People who break bones that cannot be moved, they can't move for days, broken like legs or feet or bones within the hip or something like that. It's a clear sign that we also need rest. We need to maybe slow down, get rest. So that's how that could serve you as well. And maybe even taking a pause and going, okay, what's going on. One of the bigger pieces of illness or disease and how it can serve us, it really can change your perspective on life and how maybe we've been taking advantage of our lives. And so for me in 2014, I had emergency surgery. My appendix was leaking. And my bowel, luckily, your body's a miracle. So the bowel wrapped around the appendix to stop it from toxifying my body. But we didn't really know that at the time. What we did know was that my bowels were blocked. I was very feverish, very sick. When they went in, they saw a mass, a huge mass, and they suspected it was not good. And so when I went in for surgery, I didn't really know what the outcome would be. And going through that and going and hearing the possible C word and we have to do a biopsy and all of these things really puts your life into perspective and makes you not take things for granted. Maybe you hug your family members a little bit more and have some more love and appreciation, or you go out and do the things that you want to do, but you're scared to do. So those near-death experiences, those surgical procedures, those heightened moments, maybe it's a car accident, really gives your life perspective. Or if you lose someone around you, it definitely gives you a different perspective. Um, one of the things too is illness can help us avoid things. It can help us. So this is how it can serve us. Maybe we get sick so we don't have to go to family functions, or I got a migraine, I can't go. I can't go out that night. It gives us a reason because I think in our society, we have a hard time saying no or setting our own boundaries or doing what we feel is right for us. So these illnesses are created in our bodies to help us, and it's more readily acceptable. Right? Instead of saying, I just don't want to go, if people hear, oh, you got a cold, oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, no worries. But if somebody says, they didn't really want to be there, then that blows some things up. People take it very personally when it has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with us. And so, you can get out of going places and doing things or hosting things if you have these illnesses, and other people will take them over. And so, one other example I had one client who came in who was not in a good situation, marital situation. And, when we started working on her and bringing in the root of why the breast cancer came in, it was to help her to leave her husband. And, you know, that's a very powerful, we're going under some circumstances. I mean, difficult at the time, think about going through treatment and going through, this potential, life-altering experience, but what happened for her, we saw that it served her to help her get out of something that wasn't a good situation. And so, I mean, that's pretty dramatic, but that is, that does happen. We do this. And so, one of the other biggest pieces I want to share with you is that illness, dis-ease is one of the biggest teachers for us. If we are listening, if we are asking the questions. So there's so many pieces that came in or can come in. And, I know for me, when I went through my healing, it was a huge teacher in so many different ways. I learned so much about myself, my patterns, and my mindset. So that was a big thing, really shifting my mindset and helping to heal it. Big healers in that way. So it's a really big teacher in certain ways. Um, and again, seeing the world from a certain perspective. I know for me too, I haven't talked about this on any of the videos, but I've gone through dark, deep depression as well. And not only just with my concussion, but postpartum with my daughter. So in 2008, 2009, I went really dark and, needed some support. And luckily, I had family members that stepped up and recognized similar things that they had experienced. And through the healing of anxiety and depression, and by the way, if you're going through anxiety, one of the best resources I can tell you is stresscenter.com. That's what I used back in the day. It wasn't an app, so now it's an app on your phone, but it was like a box of CDs, used to be cassette tapes that you would listen to, super powerful. And if you do the program, there's a really credible program associated with that. But if you do the program, so much learning from that, so much understanding of who we are and how we think and how we can heal, learning, about perfectionism, learning how negatively we think. You'd be like, I thought I was a really positive person, but it turns out I'm not or wasn't at the time. And, learning so many things. So these illnesses, these disease, these challenges that we have in our lives, really sit with it and see how it's serving us or how it can serve us or what is it teaching us? Where is it trying to shift us? I know, I've talked many times now about how I moved from the corporate world into more spiritual healing world. And so my illness served me, gosh, in so many different ways and helped me shift my path. And, that was from asking why? And so, it can make your life a huge catalyst. It can be a big catalyst within your life to have these challenges, to have these diseases if we're listening. And we need to understand these things to truly heal them. We need to understand our patterns, our ways of thinking around these things, because we can heal them and then it could come back. So we need to understand the root. And so we need to understand kind of what's underneath it. And, there's another video I'll do about kind of related to like symptoms and specifically illnesses and disease and the emotions behind it. Because there is certain things that emotionally they'll land somewhere physically in the body. And so that's another discussion, but trying to understand why you're in it. This is another piece, this is a big piece of the puzzle in the healing puzzle. And so, we need to understand what our behaviors are around it to create the illness and the disease and how knowing that and perhaps shifting those thoughts and perspectives around it can really shift your life. So I hope this kind of made sense. I kind of jumped around a little bit but I'm hoping just to try to bring in a little bit of realization for you to understand if you're going through something and you're trying to heal your body at the moment, and it could be it could be anything. I talk about illness and disease, but if you're going through a divorce or, you're really feeling like you're breaking up with a relationship with coworkers or friends or different things. There's everything, there's a reason, there's something that going through things serve you. And if you are staying in it, if you're staying in like the anger and the upset energy, we need to understand why. Why are you staying in it and not helping to move through it? So it might be that you just don't have help yet. But sometimes, again, some of these things that I mentioned may be serving us in some way. So I hope this makes sense to you. I hope this kind of resonates in a way that hits you in a certain place that helps you on your healing journey. And so, like I mentioned, I will be doing a video at some point talking about emotions and kind of thoughts and trauma that can come forth and bring forth disease in very specific places. So there's another piece, there's a few different pieces to that root of for our healing. So anyways, well, thank you for joining me. I hope this lands well with you, and we'll see you soon.